Here is the ultimate in complete automation. Construction, repair, breathing, heartbeat, everything fully automatic. Life is a precious and a wonderful thing. And yet with all its importance, it's amazing how little the average person knows about himself. Today, almost any 10-year-old knows more about the family car and what makes it run than the average adult knows about himself. And by the way, whatever you may happen to know about the family car will help you to understand your own body, for there are many amazing similarities. Take a deep breath. Now exhale. That was the intake and the exhaust of a 30 trillion cylinder motor. You see, there are some 30 trillion cells in the human body. And each cell is like a tiny motor. It burns fuel. It requires oxygen to burn the fuel. It gets hot and must be cooled. It gives off an exhaust gas, and it performs work. Think of it. A motor with 30 trillion cylinders. And remember, each of these tiny motors must be continuously supplied day and night throughout your entire lifetime. Even an 8-cylinder motor gets pretty complicated. We put the fuel in the gas tank, the oil in the crankcase, the water in the radiator, the oxygen enters through the air intake, and the exhaust comes out the exhaust pipe. The electrical current for the spark travels through the ignition system. There is a separate supply system for each of these separate functions. I suppose that the Creator could have provided a separate supply line to each cell in the body for each of these functions, but He didn't. Instead, He did something far more wonderful, something an automotive engineer would say is absolutely impossible. He combined them all in a single common system, the bloodstream. And the story of that red liquid which is sent plunging through the arteries and veins of your body with every beat of your heart is the most amazing, the most fabulous, the most fantastic story in the physical universe. If it were possible for you to shrink to the size of a tiny microbe and then enter the bloodstream for a trip through the circulatory system, you would find yourself caught up in a torrent of traffic that would, by comparison, make the busiest freeway look like a lonely desert road. You would see the red cells performing their unbelievable chemical magic. Loads of sugar, fat, chemicals, and minerals would be speeding from processing plants to delivery points throughout the body. Loads of refuse and waste material would be en route to salvage yards or disposal plants. You would see skilled mechanics hurrying to replace worn-out or damaged parts in the cell motors of the body. You would see an amazing traffic control system with stop and go signals at every byway intersection, all controlled by an electronic brain so that every pickup and delivery is made at the right place and at just the right time. If, however, in shrinking to the size of a microbe, you turned out to be a harmful bacteria, or even a suspicious character, you'd never get into the bloodstream. A ghostly giant would come out through the capillary wall without even making a hole and gobble you up. These lively ghosts are the white cells, or leukocytes. They form an army of 35 billion police, prepared to keep the peace or repel an invasion. You remember we said that each cell of the body is like a tiny motor, and the food you eat provides the fuel to keep it running. But it takes more than fuel to make a motor run.
Okay. You hit the light again, thank you. So everybody understand the blood is basically source of life, and how it does it work is pretty much everything in our body works on the blood. So let me ask you a question. What happens if we obstruct the blood? You're gonna die. Every organ. But so we're thinking about the human, but let's think of an organ. Let's say you be kidney, you be liver, you be everything else. Okay? when we obstruct to one organ, maybe that organ goes into distress, but all the organs that they depend on this organ, they are also under distress. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many ways that we can obstruct the blood? How many ways?
Clogged arteries.
Clogged artery, what else?
Drugs.
Drugs, what else?
The what now?
How we can obstruct the blood?
Poison.
Poison, what else?
Not exercising.
Not exercising, what else?
The food we eat.
Food we eat, what else?
Medication.
Medication, we said it, what else?
Cholesterol.
Lack of oxygen, what?
Dehydration.
Dehydration, what else?
Cholesterol.
Cholesterol, what else?
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure, exactly. So most of the time you guys talked about they falling under basically one category is chemical. The stuff that we put in our body can obstruct us. Is that right? Coronary heart disease, cholesterol, drugs. There's two other ways we can obstruct the blood. Physical. In other words, when you have a neck spasm or you have a back spasm, don't you think you're going to sting that blood vessel? Or you fall, you have an injury, don't you think you're going to obstruct that blood vessel?
Oh, yeah.
Or your vertebra out and your whole half of your body is so spasmed that it start becoming like tingling? It's part of it because the blood is missing there. Is that right?
Yeah.
What other way we can obstruct the blood?
Cancer.
But that's still like emotional, no? How many people you see when you are getting emotional, your body gets so spasmed up, emotional. So there's three ways we can obstruct our blood or obstruct anything in our body, health-wise: chemical, physical, and emotional. The purpose of this seminar, we focusing mostly on chemical, but is emotional as important. You know, there are people who doing raw food, organic, and yet get cancer. Because guess what? Having a right emotional balance and detoxing emotionally is as important. Or physical, you know, you could have eaten right food, but your neck is so odd and you are so spasmed up. Guess what? Most of us, we understand if my neck is spasmed up, it's just my neck and muscle. No. That same blood and the nerve innervation goes to also to your organs. And whatever organs happen to affect, every other organ that depend on that organ that are they're deficient or attacked. So what we're going to do now, we're going to show you on the blood how the blood start to be toxin. And most of our blood is very clogged up because American standard diet or any other diet is very acidic. It makes your blood acid. So what happens, all these red blood cells, they chunk together to balance the acidity of the environment. So a red blood cell that needs to flow freely, they chunk together. And we're going to see in a minute in the video small video presentation how it has happened. Most of us, how many think here that they eat healthy? Nobody? One thing? Okay. Most of us, if I put a ground zero that's been not healthy at all, and my hand, the healthiest possible diet, in other words 10, and the ground zero, 90% of us are 2 miles underground. Because talking to my patient, thinking that they eating healthy, and even people, I eat chicken, you know, I eat like fish. We're gonna go over it that everything that you put in your diet right now is killing you. And we need to think outside the box, and this starts with your blood. We need to clean your blood, and I'm going to show you a small video presentation. Can you hit the light?
Doctor, is there any way we can focus the picture?
I think this is the best we have. Okay.
They're not healthy. The blood is so
Okay, this is the, I'm not going to show you the whole video because of the face of time. These are the red blood cells. You see how they are like bunch of coin putting together. There are pieces of cholesterol, that chunk in the middle is supposed to be the white cell that fights bacteria. It doesn't look healthy at all. Now, we're going to talk about concept of superfood in the middle of the seminar. This patient, He went to this naturopath, and of course they detox him, and they put him on a superfood. Superfood increases the oxygen of the blood, and it makes the blood alkaline. After just 2 days,
form in the blood. And these are the pieces that, the amount is not as large as when you have a large, a little bit better. Even though the acidity has
okay, this is after the patient is being treated with little bit superfood. Look at all the blood, white blood that they were chunked up together. Now they can easily, and they are still white because they are still anemic. And look at the white blood cell. It doesn't even look healthy. One of the way we obstruct the blood by make the blood acid, by the junk we put in our body. And when the blood gets acid, they get chunked together, and guess what they do? Obstruction. Remember we talked about obstruction in the body? The first obstruction we do in our body to make our blood acid. And of course this person was more treated with superfood, and this is the healthier, and then we go on.
You notice they've got their color back, they're not as anemic.
They're not anemic anymore, you can see they have enough iron, enough oxygen. Look at the white blood cell, now you can actually see it. It fights bacteria, and the immunity is a lot better. Look at how healthy they become. Okay? Anybody that doesn't understand that acidity of the blood, it will chunk up all the red blood cells. So you can see it, and this is what we wanted to show you.
So if you look at your page 3, where it says clean blood, healthy body, toxic blood, sick body, please write down clean and nourished blood. So add the word and nourished. So your blood should be clean and nourished. But if your blood is toxic and malnourished, then we've got sick body.
Okay.
Malnourished?
Okay, sorry, can you hit the light? Okay, this is a person, we just have a diagram of the small blood. It talks about hypertension. Now I want to emphasize on you that when you have a hypertension, everybody understands that hypertension is about the heart. It's not only about heart, it's about everything. When obstruct the blood to the heart, we call it hypertension, coronary heart disease, myocardial infarction. But guess what? Let me show you. I'm going to magnify this. I need a volunteer to read again.
Okay.
Okay, would you guys read this? Can anybody read it?
No.
No?
In hypertension, severely elevated blood pressure damages the tunica intima of small vessels, resulting in fibrin accumulation in the vessels, local edema, and possibly intravascular clotting. Symptoms vary depending on the location of the damaged vessels. The brain, cerebrovascular accident or stroke. The eye, vascular retinopathy, the heart, myocardial infarction, the kidney, proteinuria, edema, and renal failure.
Okay, proteinuria is when the kidney leaks protein into the bloodstream. You gotta understand, the reason I brought you this, even the traditional medicine recognizes that when you have blood or hypertension problem, it's not just the heart, your eyes, your kidney, your brain. But guess what? Everywhere in the body. I gotta tell you, all the diseases in the body are two, either deficiency or toxicity, that they cause obstruction, okay? So usually the blood vessel, the first one to go is the wall of the blood, right here. The first one, the blood, the wall of the blood vessel start to be damaged. Most believe out there, even among medical community, that the blood slowly gets, the blood vessel slowly get obstructed. This is not, it does happen. Research after research shows that this piece of artery, it will collapse, and this is how the patient dies. What will happen is, even the cardiovascular surgeons say, oh, you know, it's mostly open, but sometimes they see even the person who's just only 15% obstruction dies next day. What happened? Because the blood vessel, they collapse on itself. 87% of heart attack are like this. And the people who do not have a heart attack, the other places in their body, this happen to it. To pancreas, to kidney, to liver, to everywhere else, this happens. It doesn't matter, the person doesn't die. That organ, whatever function it needs to be doing, is not doing anymore. Everybody understand that?
Okay, so
You can hit the light.
how do we know if we're suffering from toxic blood? I mean, we're all sitting here, we go to work, we live life regularly. How do we know? Well, here are some symptoms. What are the 5 major killers in the world? What? Heart disease, obviously. Cancer, diabetes, infection, and arthritis. Okay? So if you were suffering, okay, let's take a pause right here.
I'm not toxic.
So I don't know if you're gonna be able to, if you can stand up and take a look.
Look at my
Her,
toxins.
her water is now very, very, very dark. And actually, this is not the worst we've seen. Okay?
Yeah,
So
this is a good one, actually.
Thanks to my colonoscopy, I guess.
yeah, this is not that. Yes, you're absolutely right. That might be it. But yeah, this isn't the worst. The worst we have seen is completely black. I mean, like the color of Terry's shirt back there. Completely black. Okay. So back to how do we know? How do we know if we're toxic? Obviously, if you suffer from a chronic disease, even like fibromyalgia, you definitely have toxic blood. Okay, so some of the symptoms that are a little bit more subtle are fatigue, apathy. If you have the 3 o'clock slump in the middle of your day where at 3 o'clock you really just want a candy bar or a soda and you just feel like you have no more energy, that means that you have toxic blood. Poor digestion, and I want to define what poor digestion is, okay? Some of us think that it's okay to have a bowel movement every other day, and that's just the way life is. If you're having a bowel movement every other day, you are constipated and you're toxic. So healthy digestion would be 1 bowel movement a day, okay? If you're sluggish, if you're bloated, if you have PMS symptoms, all of these are symptoms of toxic blood. Hi, come on in. Come on in, Phyllis.
Okay, 5 major killer, cancer. How do you think cancer happens? When there's obstruction to any organs, toxicity build up, we produce cancer cell right away. We all have some type of cancer when we have toxicity in the body. What will happen, our immunity are down, they cannot fight cancer cells, boom, cancer takes over your body. Diabetes. I don't know how many of you saw the movie 30 Raw 40 Days. 6 people, they recovered from diabetes just by changing their diet. The pancreas gets obstructed, doesn't get enough nutrients, doesn't produce insulin or all the other functions it needs to. Arthritis. Arthritis is the biggest lifestyle condition we have these days. Most of us, we don't know arthritis is just a huge allergy we create. We eating all this meat, stays in the stomach for 72 hours or 7 weeks or 6 months. Body produces antibody, goes inside the blood and start attacking joint. So if it attacks our joint, we have rheumatoid or degenerative arthritis.